Do not multitask. Have you ever noticed the subtle shift in people's behavior when they suddenly realize they've underestimated someone? That moment when the whispers, the hidden agendas, and the subtle undermining fail, and suddenly the very person they tried to manipulate stands resilient and unshaken. It is as if a veil lifts, revealing a presence they never anticipated, a strength they could not anticipate. The world often overlooks the quiet, steady accumulation of wisdom and integrity, yet it is in that quiet that the most profound transformations take place. Those who plotted, who doubted, who sought to control, now face a confrontation not with hostility, but with clarity. They see what they failed to perceive, and it unsettles them deeply. What does it mean to be someone who is underestimated, overlooked, or even dismissed? It is not merely about surviving the schemes of others. It is about maintaining a consistency of character, a dedication to truth, and a refusal to compromise your own path, regardless of the distractions surrounding you. When others attempt to manipulate or distort your reality, their actions often reveal more about themselves than they do about you. In psychology, this phenomenon is called projection, where people assign their insecurities and fears onto someone else. Those who plotted against you may have carried assumptions, expectations, or judgments that were never grounded in reality. And when those assumptions crumble, panic emerges, because the world they imagined no longer aligns with what is. Have you ever paused to consider the silent power of observation and reflection? While some expend energy crafting narratives or enacting control, others cultivate awareness and patience. This patience is not passive, it is an active resilience. It allows insight to grow, understanding to deepen, and decisions to be measured rather than reactive. In this space, one begins to notice patterns, how certain people respond to challenge, how they react when their influence wanes, how their fear becomes evident. It is not vindictive to observe, it is a form of self-preservation and clarity. And in that clarity, the underestimated individual discovers something profound. The only validation truly necessary comes from aligning actions with values and principles, not from the approval or fear of others. Now, consider the ripple effect. When those who plotted against you begin to perceive your true capabilities, their panic can manifest in unpredictable ways. Words may become sharper, strategies more erratic, and alliances may shift suddenly. They are responding to a realization that they cannot fully control outcomes, that their previous manipulations are ineffective against someone who is grounded, aware, and purposeful. This panic is not a reflection of your actions alone. It is the natural reaction of those confronted with a reality they cannot dictate. How do you navigate such moments? With composure, with reflection, with the quiet strength that comes from knowing your own path, your own intentions, and your own capacity to endure and rise above interference. And so, the story is not about their fear, it is about your steadfastness. It is about the unseen work, the patience, and the self-mastery that allows you to walk through the world without succumbing to chaos or manipulation. The shift is subtle at first, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable. They realize the magnitude of what they attempted to underestimate. And in that realization lies the awakening, not of them, but of you in your awareness of your own resilience and power. The world may attempt to test you, but the chosen ones, the steadfast, those who persevere with integrity, discover that true recognition does not come from their panic. It comes from the quiet assurance of knowing who you are and what you stand for. Have you ever noticed how the perception of others can change almost overnight? One day, people may dismiss you, underestimate your resolve, or quietly work against you. The next, they pause, unsettled, realizing the depth of your strength and the clarity of your path. It is a subtle, almost invisible shift, yet it carries immense weight. Their strategies, built on assumptions and misjudgments, begin to crumble. Their panic is not born of malice alone. It emerges from the dissonance between who they believed you to be and who you have quietly become. And in that dissonance, there is a lesson worth reflecting on. The most profound transformations often happen unseen, in patience, resilience, and the careful cultivation of inner strength. Why do some people underestimate others so easily? Perhaps it is the human tendency to judge based on appearances, habits, or early impressions. We make assumptions about who someone is, what they are capable of, or how far they can go. Those assumptions are rarely accurate because they rely on incomplete information and bias. When you move beyond those assumptions, not with force but with consistent integrity and self-awareness, the world begins to notice, but often too late. Those who plotted against you may have spent energy trying to anticipate, control, or limit your actions. Yet the very consistency they failed to see, the quiet discipline, the careful decisions, the unwavering focus, becomes the foundation of your advantage. Have you considered the role of patience in moments like these? It is tempting to respond immediately to provocation or to prove yourself to those who doubt you. Yet the greatest strength often lies in restraint. By observing without reacting, by maintaining clarity and focus, you allow the patterns around you to reveal themselves. People reveal their true intentions through action, not words. The panic of those who plotted is a mirror reflecting their own insecurity and fear. It is not a reflection of your worth, but of the gap between their expectations and the reality they now face. And when that realization occurs, it is almost inevitable. They begin to scramble, to reassess, to question the very plans they had laid with such confidence. What does it mean, then, to truly rise above the schemes of others? It is not about revenge, manipulation, or proving dominance. It is about understanding the dynamics at play, cultivating awareness, and acting with integrity. The chosen ones, the ones who remain grounded and self-aware, do not need to fight every battle directly. Their victories are often quiet but profound, emerging from consistency, insight, and resilience. As the panic of others grows, it becomes a sign not of your fragility, but of their misplaced expectations. Their realization of your strength is a testament to the journey you have quietly undertaken, the values you have upheld, and the inner mastery you have cultivated. In these moments, it becomes clear the awareness of your own capacity, the knowledge of your principles, and the ability to remain steady amidst chaos are far more powerful than any external validation. Others may panic, attempt to disrupt, or question your path, but their fear cannot dictate your actions. It is in this calm awareness that the chosen ones find their edge. They move forward not with arrogance, but with purpose, knowing that the truth of who they are cannot be obscured by the doubts or schemes of others. And as this awareness grows, so too does the realization of those who underestimated you. They see now what they failed to grasp, and the world subtly shifts around that truth. When people begin to panic, it is rarely just about the immediate situation. Their fear is deeper. It stems from the realization that they cannot predict, control, or contain what they once thought was manageable. They see now that the underestimated individual possesses something they cannot imitate: consistency of character, clarity of purpose, and resilience under pressure. It is a quiet, formidable power, the kind that does not announce itself with loud gestures or declarations, but one that becomes undeniable through action and presence. And as they watch, scrambling to adjust to what they misjudged, the shift is profound. The very assumptions that once guided their strategies now crumble, leaving confusion, doubt, and, inevitably, panic. Have you ever paused to reflect on the psychology of those who plot against others? Often, their schemes are rooted in a desire for control or affirmation, an attempt to shape the world according to their own expectations. But when confronted with someone who refuses to fit their narrative, the structure of their plans begins to unravel. This is not punishment. It is the natural consequence of misjudgment. In the silence of reflection, the underestimated individual discovers an important truth. Others' panic is not a reflection of your power, but of their misperception. Their anxiety highlights the discrepancy between the world they imagined and the reality they now face, a reality they cannot manipulate. And that discrepancy, once revealed, often amplifies itself, growing into frantic attempts to regain control over something that was never theirs to command. How do you navigate such an environment without losing your own balance? The answer lies in awareness, patience, and measured action. When confronted with panic or manipulation, it is easy to react impulsively, to meet chaos with chaos. Yet the deeper strategy is to remain centered, to observe without attachment, and to act in alignment with your values. By doing so, you not only preserve your clarity, but you also expose the patterns of those who attempt to undermine you. Their panic becomes a lens through which you can see intentions clearly, an unintentional revelation of their true priorities and weaknesses. And in that clarity, you are empowered, not because you dominate them, but because you understand the dynamics fully and act deliberately. Consider for a moment the broader lessons embedded in these moments of confrontation. Life often presents challenges disguised as opposition or interference. Those who seek to undermine or misjudge may appear formidable, but their panic reveals their limitations. The chosen ones, however, move with an awareness that is patient, strategic, and grounded. They do not need to prove themselves to every skeptic or manipulate every situation to their favor. Their strength is not measured by how loudly they assert themselves, but by how faithfully they maintain integrity, focus, and calm amid disruption. And as others scramble, the quiet mastery of the steadfast individual becomes increasingly apparent. The world begins to recognize, subtly but unmistakably, that those who are underestimated often hold the greatest resilience, insight, and influence, simply because they refuse to bend to fear, expectation, or misjudgment. The panic of others is, in a sense, confirmation of your own progress. It signals that the path you have taken, guided by clarity and persistence, cannot be ignored. And as they attempt to recalibrate their strategies, you continue forward, unmoved, grounded in purpose, and aware of the true scope of your own strength. It is here, in this quiet confidence, that the underestimated truly become unshakable, and the world slowly, inevitably, comes to recognize their presence. As the realization of your true nature spreads, those who once sought to undermine, you find themselves caught in a web of their own making. Their panic is not merely about loss of control. It is about confronting a reality they never expected, a reality in which their assumptions and manipulations no longer hold sway. And yet, their fear is instructive. It reveals the patterns they rely on, the strategies they depend upon, and the fragility underlying their confidence. In witnessing their reactions, a profound insight emerges. The world often mirrors the intentions and energy we project, but it also reflects the limitations of those who fail to understand us. This recognition is not about arrogance. It is about clarity, seeing yourself and others as they truly are, unclouded by illusion or misjudgment. Have you considered the subtle power of presence? Presence is not about force or confrontation. It is about alignment, consistency, and self-awareness. It is about acting with integrity, even when those around you attempt to destabilize your path. Those who plotted against you now recognize that their influence was never absolute, and their panic stems from the dissonance between expectation and reality. This dissonance, however, does not need to dictate your actions. The chosen ones, those who navigate life with insight and patience, understand that true authority comes not from external validation or fear, but from the inner mastery of thought, action, and intention. And as the panic around them grows, they continue to operate from a space of calm, deliberate focus, allowing events to unfold without being swept into reactive chaos. What does this teach about human behavior and relationships? It shows that much of our interactions are influenced by perception, projection, and the desire to control outcomes. People often act out of fear of loss, fear of being wrong, or fear of facing truths they would rather avoid. When confronted with someone whose resilience and clarity cannot be easily manipulated, their panic is inevitable. Yet the response of the steadfast individual is not retaliation, it is observation, understanding, and maintaining alignment with their values and purpose. In this way, the underestimated person transforms not only their own life, but also the dynamic around them, revealing the limitations and motivations of others without ever needing to impose force. Ultimately, the narrative is one of quiet transformation and steadfastness. The chosen ones move forward with awareness, integrity, and purpose, unaffected by the panic of those who misjudged them. Their strength lies in patience, reflection, and unwavering adherence to their path, not in confrontation or vindication. Others may scramble, attempt to regain control, or reassess their judgments, but the chosen ones remain centered, their clarity unshaken. In recognizing this, we are reminded that true influence does not require aggression or assertion. It grows from consistency, insight, and resilience. And as the world around them adjusts, those who underestimated them must come to terms with a truth they could not deny, that integrity, focus, and quiet strength are forces far more formidable than any scheme or fear. In the end, the lesson is simple yet profound. When you walk your path with awareness and purpose, when you cultivate resilience and clarity, the reactions of others, whether panic, doubt, or surprise, become indicators, not obstacles. The chosen ones discover that their power lies not in changing others, but in mastering themselves, and in doing so, they create a presence that cannot be ignored, underestimated, or shaken. Even after the panic has settled, the ripple effects continue. Those who plotted, who doubted, who underestimated, are left with a lingering awareness that they miscalculated not just your capabilities, but your consistency, your insight, and your resilience. And here lies a subtle but powerful truth. People rarely change instantly, but awareness plants a seed. The panic they once felt transforms into reflection, hesitation, and sometimes even admiration, though unspoken. What was once an environment of control and manipulation slowly shifts into one where respect, caution, or at the very least acknowledgement becomes unavoidable. It is a quiet victory, one that cannot be claimed loudly or superficially, but one that resonates deeply in the patterns of life and relationships. Why does this shift matter so profoundly? Because it illustrates the principle that external chaos cannot define internal strength. While others scramble and attempt to regain footing, your progress remains intact, grounded in deliberate choices and self-awareness. Those who underestimated you can only react. They cannot dictate the path you have already chosen. This distinction is vital. It separates the impulsive from the deliberate, the reactive from the reflective. The chosen ones recognize that true power is measured not by the panic of others, but by the steadiness of their own convictions and the clarity with which they navigate the world. Every action, every decision, every calm response in the face of disruption reinforces a presence that cannot be destabilized by fear or expectation. Have you noticed how perception can be reshaped without confrontation? By remaining consistent and purposeful, by acting with integrity and insight, the underestimated individual forces the world to recalibrate. Others' panic is merely a signal that the recalibration is underway. It is not a victory claimed through aggression, but a natural consequence of alignment and presence. In philosophy, this is akin to the principle of resonance. When something is authentic and stable, it influences its environment without coercion. Those who plotted against you are affected, not because you imposed change upon them, but because your reality exposes the gaps in theirs. Their panic, doubt, and attempts to manipulate become reflections of the contrast between your clarity and their confusion. Ultimately, this journey is about mastery, not mastery over others, but mastery over one's own path, choices, and awareness. The chosen ones learn to move with patience, insight, and resilience, unaffected by fleeting fears or external expectations. They understand that those who panic are responding to the truth they failed to see, and that this reaction is an opportunity to observe, learn, and maintain equilibrium. The world may be filled with doubt, schemes, and misperception, but clarity, purpose, and consistent integrity cut through uncertainty in ways that are subtle yet undeniable. As you reflect on these dynamics, it becomes clear that real strength is quiet, deliberate, and unwavering. Those who plotted may continue to adjust, attempt to regain influence, or hesitate in their decisions, but the chosen ones continue forward with confidence, rooted in awareness. Their resilience is not reactive. It is proactive, grounded in the steady cultivation of insight, integrity, and focus. And in the end, the world does not need to announce their power. It is simply felt, acknowledged, and respected. Because the underestimated have discovered the timeless truth. True strength emerges from mastery of self, clarity of purpose, and unwavering commitment to one's own path.